Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey. And how do we begin anew? And who can we look up to help us get through that? We're going to talk all about that here on The Next Right Thing with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Blai. Good morning, Debbie and Adam.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you so very much for having us on The Next Right Thing. Adam and I love this segment. We have prepared for it, and we're super excited for our listeners. And Keith, you are just spot on about setbacks and comebacks. You know, when we experience a setback, Adam, God is already preparing our comeback. And we'd like to open up the phone lines if that has happened to you. You experienced a setback, but God had everything planned for your future to have to begin again, begin anew, like St. Teresa of Avila used to say to her sisters. The number to dial is 877-757-9424. That's 877-757-9424. And Adam, before we begin, and I know you're going to get into the exorcism work that you do on a regular basis, which I think is going to be so powerful for our Morning Joy listeners, I just wanted to share again the quote from Pope John Paul II, that we are not the sum of our weaknesses and failures. We are the sum of the Father's love for us and our real capacity to become the image of his Son, Jesus. Pick it up right there, Adam.
Wow. It's beautiful. So many quotes from JP to really kind of sum up. Like to me, they're almost like tricky. They sound simple, but when you reflect on them, they really speak these really deep truths in a simple way. It just shows so much wisdom. So I wanted to share some things that I've learned over the years. And it basically, the advantage of being involved in the exorcism world, it's not the drama and the excitement of, ooh, that's an exorcist, which is just a priest who's given permission to say these prayers. You know, it doesn't make you instantly more knowledgeable than other people or anything like that. But what it does give you over the years is some insights into the spiritual struggle that people go through, because the curtain is kind of pulled back. We see exactly how the enemy thinks and how they want to distort our thinking played out in the people that the church is praying for. So I just wanted to share that. God is always, always, always wanting to restore and heal and encourage and draw us to himself. Jesus always wants us to come to him. In this sense, he has a goal for us when he created us. It's kind of like if you imagine a bullseye, and that bullseye is sainthood, is being in heaven with him, is being perfected. And that is always going to be his goal till the moment we go to our personal judgment. And so as we drift away from that bullseye, because basically none of us are going to hit it perfectly, because we're in a fallen world, we have a sinful nature. You know, the only person that is completely holy is Jesus. We all have an inclination to sin. But he's never going to stop hoping that we're going to hit that bullseye, and he's going to give us lots of help continuously until the end. And what I'm getting to, Deb, is even the people that have chosen to explicitly reject God, mock God, reject and say, I don't want this, and have embraced the enemy, you know, to the point of even worshiping them and treating them like a god and buying into their lie. Even those people, he never ever gives up on them. But what does happen, Deb, is even the people that haven't gone that far, what the enemy does, and this is the important thing we can all use. It's not just for the people that are going through exorcisms. What the enemy does is he wants us to stare at our failings in the past. He wants us locked into the past, only thinking about the worst things that we did, the places that we failed. And he's going to give us a distorted view of that. He's going to amplify that if we listen to him. And the message is going to be, you've been so bad, you failed so greatly, God doesn't want you anymore. Despair of his love, give up, just let yourself fall. You know, Jesus couldn't possibly want you. Look at how awful you are. This is the accuser. And the amazing thing, Deb, is even people that have fallen so far into active Satanism, and I mean real Satanism, not philosophical Satanism, but they know that he's a real creature and all of that, Jesus is there for them, yearning for them, on the cross for them, looking at them, calling out to them in so many different ways. And the love I have seen that God has for people. Let me give one more quick thing, Deb, before I want you to jump in and I want to hear your thoughts. The most moving moment I've ever had in these almost 20 years is when I was praying for a woman who was dying of cancer. They had sent her home to finish the process of dying. And she had been involved in some form of Satanism in her youth. She was to the point where she couldn't speak much anymore, but her sister told me what she had said when she had asked for somebody to come pray for her, that she had chosen the enemy in her youth and had lived an entire life rejecting God and choosing the enemy, and she didn't want to die in this state. And I went and prayed with her as she was dying. She couldn't communicate anymore, but her sister conveyed all this. Deb, the feeling of the flood of love from the Father for his child that was repenting, it gives me chills to talk about it. That was the greatest love I ever felt of the presence of God for a soul that was repenting. And this was at the last moment after 50 or 60 years of rejection. So I'm just encouraging everybody, never give up, because God never gives up on you.
Well, this has been so powerful already, this segment, and I think it's very important for our listeners to hear this, because many of us have made choices in our life, in our past, that have kept us there. And like you said, Adam, the accuser wants to distort that and twist that and hold us there. And we have great saints and leaders in the church that have encouraged us to not stay there, to heal and move forward. God wants to restore us. God wants to heal us. God wants to make us feel confident again in our spiritual lives and in our relationship with him. And you just mentioned that with that example with that lady, right at the very end, and even in all that has transpired, God is still reaching us and wanting to stay close with us. Very important, Adam. And I think that it's, if we open up the phone lines now, if anybody has something to share about this, maybe you have gone off the path, so far off the path that you're thinking, okay, I'm never going to get back to God. He's not going to remember me. He's not going to know me. But yet God, in miraculous ways, through people, through things, through circumstances, brought you home, brought you to a better place, a healed, a more solid place, a place of confidence and hope and joy. Again, it's that whole idea of we go through life. It's ups and downs, twists and turns. It can be a rocky road, a real adventure like a roller coaster. But you know what? When those setbacks happen, God wants us to move forward and be better and grow from it and learn from it. So if this has happened to you, if you've experienced God's love in this miraculous way, call in and share with us, because you're going to be helping other souls this morning. 877-757-9424. And actually, Adam, this ties in beautifully to our whole episode for Morning Joy today. And that is that, we make choices in life. And those choices are either going to bring us closer to God or we're going to go further away, right? But God is always trying to connect with us, always trying to reach us. And you see it. You said it earlier, Adam, that it's kind of like the curtain is pulled back and you can see how God works. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, there's one thing, and some of your words just now reminded me of this. It's important to remember, and again, I've noticed this through working, chatting with people and being support in between sessions and seeing so many different situations, that here's the thing. If you're not moving at all, you're drifting backwards. So we don't want to think that we can just be neutral and ignore God and ignore the enemy. And, maybe in 10 or 20 years, I'll think about these things, but right now I'm going to focus on money or whatever it might be. Not that we have to feel bad and that we have to be, praying 8 hours a day, unless that's your calling to be in a monastery and do that. But we don't want to drift. We don't want to think, well, I can be neutral and maybe I'll do this later in life. If you are not moving towards God, you are slowly drifting backwards. So there's a certain current that we're moving against because we're in a fallen world. And so we want to be always at least looking towards God, trying to move towards God, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just making it to Mass weekly, praying one rosary a month, one rosary a week. But I'll tell you, Deb, what I've noticed over the years, if you have the benefit of being Catholic and you have access to the Eucharist, that's your number one. Even if you're not feeling it right now, or maybe it's not fireworks for you right now, when in doubt, receive the Eucharist frequently, all right? You're going to notice a change in your life. And number two, anybody can do, is the Rosary. Praying the Rosary is transformative, and it's also, I've said this many times, it's the greatest deliverance prayer that we have. We don't need big, complicated, long prayers. The simple Rosary teaches us so much and provides so much grace. So if you want to keep moving forward, if you're Catholic, get to Mass on a regular basis, pray your Rosary. That's going to give you a ton of movement. That's going to keep you moving towards God. And on top of that, you can, of course, add more as your life allows.
Mm-hmm. Sacrament of confession. Let's get that in there as well.
Oh,
healing sacrament. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's confession frees you and it allows you to approach the Eucharist and receive communion. We don't want to receive communion in a state of mortal sin because that brings condemnation on us, as Paul says. That's an offense to God. Confession, of course, is kind of a baseline assumption. It's a scary one for a lot of us, but it's something that we need to do.
Right. Well, we're going to get to the calls on the next segment, so that's exciting. If you'd like to jump in and pick up that free phone line there that's waiting for you to talk about setbacks and comebacks in life and how you can drift away but get super close to God during even difficult situations, because when we're suffering, we are really aligned with Jesus if we allow the suffering to work for us rather than against us. The number to dial is 877-757-9424. I personally think, Adam, segments like this are extremely impactful in so many ways. And I think if folks go back and listen to this a few times, they will realize they can apply it to their life in various ways, or even for their children or grandchildren, they could share this with them, because I think oftentimes, and I see this in life coaching, Adam, and tell me if you see this or if you remember this from when you your work in mental health arena. This idea of people feeling like, well, I'm just ruined now. It's done. I've made these decisions. I can't go back. I can't reverse it. I can't change it. There's really no way to, reverse the clock. It's over. I made the mistake now. I have to just accept it. And that's a terrible place for people to feel. But Adam, hold that. We're going to hold it right there. We're going to send it back to Keith, and then we come back. You'll answer, and then we'll go straight to the phones. But we're talking about God wants to restore you, so stay with us.
All right, hang tight. On Morning Joy, where truth matters. Have you gone off the path and came back? We'll hear your story right after this break on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
You're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters.